Welcome into the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and it is time for class. We're going to be looking at James Cook today. Just a heads up, welcome, thank you. New subscribers had a little bit of a boost recently, so that's great to see. Up over 700. Next goal, 800. And at the end of the video, I will let you know about a few things if you want to become a member of the channel, help out. That is obviously appreciated, and I have a couple of offerings, the best that I can offer for you. So check out the end of the video for that. Let's get into James Cook. By the way, this series looking at, are these players worth their ADP, essentially is what the question that is being asked. So for James Cook, is he worth being taken at running back 13, ADP 43, or not? Is he being taken too high, too low? We will find out by the end of this video. But first, we must think about some of the offensive coordinator changes. As of week 11 of last year, they had Joe Brady in as their interim offensive coordinator, and then he became their official offensive coordinator this year. So we have a nice sample size, although on the smaller end, which isn't preferable, but I do prefer to use that because there is a difference in how this offense was run once they got rid of Ken Dorsey and they brought Joe Brady in. There's zero doubt about that. Quite a bit of difference, and it does impact James Cook and how we should be looking at him. So if you like this video series, don't forget to check out, I've got other videos, and I have them linked down in the description below, where you can also see the link to my website to find the rankings for all positions if you want to check those out if you haven't yet. But down below, I've done MHJ, Marvin Harrison Jr. I just did the 3 wide receivers of Houston, so you can check that out. This is all under one playlist. I believe it's called the Player Highlights playlist on the website, up on the page here. And then Zamir White as well. So if you have any interest in those players, check out those videos. But we're looking at James Cook, and first we need to figure out like the average attempts per game. I went through here. I'm showing the homework there over those 9 game span with Joe Brady at offensive coordinator. Averaged 17 attempts per game, and if you look closer at this too, you'll see all but one game averaged 16 or more attempts per game. All but two out of these 9. So 7 out of 9, 16 or more attempts. 5 out of the 9. I believe it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They averaged 17 or more. So this is even, on the lower side due to a couple of games pulling it down. Though, we got a 25er here as well. So what can you say? That's a good average to look at. Then we're looking at the rushing yards per attempt. So we have all those attempt numbers, but we also know that amongst all 153 attempts while Joe Brady was the offensive coordinator, that James Cook had 647 yards. That came to roughly 4.2 yards per attempt. So that is a number that we will need, because we can just multiply that by the average attempts per game, and that's going to give us the amount of yards per game, which of course can very easily be shot into the fantasy points per game. Now, there's other ways to score in fantasy football, and that is through the air. Running backs do both. So we're looking at the receptions per game, just kind of jumping right past the targets and the reception percentage, which I usually show for the wide receivers and everything. In this instance, I just decided to jump right through the receptions. 3.1 under Joe Brady. It was going to be a lot more work looking at trying to break it down piece by piece under Joe Brady than just looking at the receptions and results. So that's what we did here. Once again, 3.1 receptions per game. But how many yards does he get on average per reception? Well, under Joe Brady, he averaged 249 yards he got 249 yards total over the 28 receptions, which averaged out to 8.9 yards per reception. So there's another yardage total that we can calculate, about 28 yards per game on average in this Joe Brady offense. And we just need one more number, this touchdown number. And under the 9 games with Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator, only had 1 rushing touchdown. So that's not fantastic, but he did have 3 receiving touchdowns in 9 games. That's 4 touchdowns over that 9-game span, a 44.4% chance of a touchdown. It's about average. If anything, it might be on the lighter side there, but we'll look into that a little closer soon. First of all, let's just get the calculations based off the numbers that we have here. So we look at those rushing yards. That came to 7.1 fantasy points per game on average. Receiving yards, 2.8 fantasy points per game on average. This actually worked out really nicely. 99 exactly yards, and in total, we get 9.9 fantasy points. Receptions, 3.1, half PPR. Half point per reception, 1.5 fantasy points per game, and for the touchdowns, 0.444. Multiply that by the 6 points that you could get for a touchdown. On average per game, you should be getting about 2.6 fantasy points from touchdowns. Obviously, that 2.6, either you get it or not. So, when we look at the number before the touchdowns, it's a pretty solid number. It's 11.4 fantasy points per game. And half PPR, that's good. That's pretty much my mark. My mark is like, I want 10 to 12 from each player, and I'm in it to win it. The other player is going to have a really good week, or on an average week, I have a decent shot at beating them. That's outside of the quarterback. Quarterback, I want like 20 points from. So running back 23 in 2023 is what that 11.4 fantasy points per game would have ended at on average per game. That's not bad. Once again, that's a good, solid floor. Almost 100 yards per game, 3 catches, not shabby, and worthwhile. You know, like you like to see that nice floor. About 20 touches per game. That's fantastic in terms of opportunity. Now, when we look at with touchdowns, that brings us all the way up to 14 fantasy points per game, or the running back 14 via the average running back fantasy points per game. In 2023, that is. So is James Cook worth being taken as the running back 13 off the board? Well, we came up to the running back 14 there with the projections, and I think, if anything, that touchdown percentage is probably on the low end, though the rushing touchdowns, there is a reason is lower. You got Josh Allen there, who can, anytime you're within 10 yards of the end zone, he's as big of a threat as anybody to end up rushing it into the end zone. So that just limits the James Cook opportunities there. And then they also might bring in, Ray Davis in some of those short yardage situations, including touchdown short, which brings me to the 65% of running back carries. That's what he had last year under Joe Brady. And that's definitely a number that could repeat itself, but also possibly on the lower end. They got rid of some of their veteran running back talent, have brought in Ray Davis, and kept more of a receiving back in, is it Pirine? I can't quite, it's not Samaje, I know that, but one of those receiving type backs who's been around the league for a while, a great veteran. But either way, if anything, I think that's a little bit low, so I am more than happy to be taking James Cook off the board at running back 13. I think it aligns with his floor, if anything, and the ceiling could definitely be better than that. Just a heads up for next week, David Montgomery will be, not next week actually, just the next time that I release a video in this series, we're going to be looking at David Montgomery, and if you have any suggestions, please let me know who you would like to see in the next video. And I had a couple of announcements. So if you want to become a member of the channel, help support the channel, help me to be able to continue to give you this content consistently, you do get a password for a Discord channel upon becoming a member. Hopefully that gets rid of the hiccups. So when you become a member, you get the password. And you, on Discord, there are a few channels on the Discord server. One of them being the Equalized Value. If you're new to the channel, you have no clue what that is. So Equalized Value is a home-brewed stat that I made, and it looks at average fantasy points per week through the lens of consistency. So it... time in and time out, I have shown that it is a better predictor of, will this guy, on average, most games, help win you games, more games over the season. So it's a very good stat, and you can use it to look back into last year's numbers, or what I have up, and see which guys were more consistent, how that compares to the average fantasy points per game. There are differences. And that can just help you also as a refresher. If you do a lot of your own homework for your fantasy drafts, there's data that you can look at. Then I also have, if you're not familiar, I do a lot of NFL draft stuff. So all my NFL draft combine stuff is available to you. So if a rookie ends up getting a chance mid-season and you're wondering if you want to take them off the waiver wire, you can go back. You can see what their strengths are, weaknesses, see if you think that they fit the role that they're going to be thrust into. And if you think that that'll be successful for them, you can see my my little write-ups on those players' strengths, weaknesses, kind of thing. But also, I've mentioned my rankings. My rankings are available up on the website, www.theff4ge.com, for each player. And I think I'll get my overall rankings up there soon, too. But I have each position up. If you want me to do rankings for full PPR or for standard format scoring, there's 2 different channels on the server, one titled full PPR, one titled standard format. Just hop on in there, let me know, and I can get those out for you ASAP. Also, if you're interested in joining a fantasy football league here, channel league, listeners league, there is a 2024 fantasy league channel. Just hop in there, let me know. The moment we get enough people, we can start up a league, get something set up. And we're starting to get a good crew also on the Thursday night lives for practicing, doing mock drafts. So if you want to join in on that, that's fun. And maybe we'll just end up creating a group out of the people who are coming to that. So there you go. Thank you very much. Peace out.